Professor Hans Richter.
I don't have to explain Dada. You all know what Dada is. But it was created as a movement of protest in Zurich. Protest not only in the world of art, but also in the world of politics. There were immigrants from Germany, from Romania, Janko and Sarah, from Austria, Werner. They were not only against the war, but they wanted to express a new kind of mentality. They wanted to include arts into the fight for a new ethic.
Revolted by the slaughter of World War I, we devoted ourselves in Zurich to the fine arts. While far away there was artillery thunder, we sang, painted, glued together and wrote poems to our heart's content. Hans Arp.
In this house on February the 5th, 1916, the Cabaret Voltaire was opened and Dadaism founded.
From Hugo Ball's diaries, 1916, May 24. We were all there when Janko arrived with his masks, and everyone immediately tried one on. Then something strange happened. The masks not only immediately called for specific costumes, they also dictated a very theatrical behavior that verged on madness. 1916, June 23. I have invented a new kind of verse, verses without words, or sound poems. The first of these verses I read out tonight. I had constructed a special costume for the occasion.
From Zara Zurich Chronicle, 1918, July 23, Miser Hall, Tristan Zara Soiree, Manifesto, Antithesis, Thesis, Anti-Philosophy, 1919, April 9, Kaufleuten Hall, non plus ultra, 1,500 persons filled the hall. From July 1917 on, the magazine Dada appears in Zurich. In January 1920, Zara goes to Paris, where the last numbers of Dada are printed.
Teuber Arp, Sophie, wife of Hans Arp, as a painter had great influence on the Zurich Dadaism. Paper and cloth pictures, embroidery, Dada heads, marionettes, dancer.
Soldier and Army at the same time, 1918, marionette figure. Elementary forms, 1917, gouache and embroidery. She loved dancing, and for a time she preferred this to her creative work. Sophie Teuber was a teacher in the Zurich School of Arts and Crafts. Her teaching made her essential work and mine possible. I must remind the reader that we lived in Dada times and that the Dadaists had an extremely bad reputation. Thus, the head of the School of Arts and Crafts intimated to Sophie she was to give up taking part in the Dadaist manifestations, or else, as they say in Switzerland, she would lose her teacher's job. She now saw herself compelled to wear a mask and pseudonym for her dance act. Hans Arp.
Sarah Tristan co-founded Dada in Zurich 1916, editor of the magazines Cabaret Voltaire and Dada, co-founder of Paris Dada. Later on collaborated with the Surrealists.
Diarrhea is also a sentiment. War, business, poetic element, infernal propeller economic spirit, Germain Fautisme, national anthem, posters, Raymond tossed on stage, savage outbursts, Tristan Zara.
Cerner Walter. Editor of the magazine Sirius. Main work, Letzte Lockerung, Hanover 1920. Last heard of in 1922 in the USSR, where he had gone as a convinced communist. Schwitter's Kurt. From 1918 on, developed his one-man Dadaism, which he called Merz. emigrated to Norway in 1937. His Merz structure in Hanover 1943 destroyed in an air raid. Merz structure number 2 in Lysaker, Norway, burnt by children at play 1951. Merz structure number 3 in Little Langdale near Ambleside, England, didn't get beyond initial stage.
Merz picture 1C 1920.
He was not against art. As a matter of fact, he created a new art form with his collage, which was completely different from anything we had seen before. And he explained to Hausmann, for instance, that he nailed his paintings and he pasted his collage in order to enrich normal paintings.
Uns. Bevölkerung Entlastungskriegen. Es ging an Berliner. Mittwoch etwas stattfindendes am Kopfe. Reichsgerichtsprozesse gegen die Staatsaußenangehörigen werden alle Personen, die imstande sind, Beweiskräftiges zu liefern oder darauf hinzuholen ist, die durch die Presse bekannt wird. Die Liste der Beschuldigungen finden von Mittwoch den 11. bis wegen erwartenden Eingänge bitten wir Abenddatum Kriegsschauplatz
Kurt Schwitters spricht sein Gedicht
Kurt Schwitters reading his poem to Anna Blume, recorded in 1932.
Geliebte meiner 27 Sinne, ich liebe dir. Du deiner, dich dir, ich dir, du mir, wir. Das gehört beiläufig nicht hierher. Wer bist du, ungezähltes Frauenzimmer? Du bist du. Die Menschen sagen, du wärest. Lass sie sagen. Sie wissen nicht, wie der Kirchturm steht.
spricht Teile seiner Sonate mit Urlauten.
Der Weber, fünfe, Weber, fünfe,
At first I tried to create new art forms out of the remains of older cultures. This led to Merz painting, a new form of painting that uses any sort of material, pelican colors as well as rubbish. Thus I experienced the revolution in its funniest form and am termed a Dadaist without being one. Kurt Schwitters, 1926.
Invitation to Merz soirée. Original poetry. Grotesques, satires, lyrics, epic poetry. Dada, primal sound poetry. Dancing and refreshments after the lecture. When you go home, tell everyone what a jolly time you've had.
And thus the word Merz was born.
Starting with the number Holland Dada, Schwitters publishes from 1923 until 1932 in his own Merz Verlag, all in all 21 numbers of his Merz magazine. In it he propagated his Merz ideas, Merz typography in conjunction with Lisitsky, Merz architecture, Merz poetry, Merz and Dada friends, Merz painting, Merz structure, Merz theater, Merz advertising, and himself. From about 1922 onwards, Schwitters turned away from Dadaism and inclined to the Dutch de Stijl movement. Richter Hans came to Zurich at the end of 1916, championed the abstract films together with Egerling.
Berlin, 1918. Collective Dada Manifesto. The Dadaists are the first not to take an aesthetic attitude towards life, and this they accomplish by hacking all the slogans of ethics, culture and inwardness, which are merely cloaks for weak muscles, into their components. Blast the aesthetic ethical attitude, blast the bloodless abstraction of expressionism, blast the literary hollowheads and the theories of improving the world, for Dadaism in word and image, for all the Dada things that go on in the world. To be against this manifesto is to be a Dadaist. Signed by Zara, Jung, Gross, Hülsenbeck, Hausmann and others.
Dadaism demands 1. The international revolutionary union of all creative and intellectual men and women on the basis of radical communism. 2. The introduction of progressive unemployment through comprehensive mechanization of every field of activity. Only by unemployment does it become possible for the individual to achieve certainty as to the truth of life and finally become accustomed to experience. 3. The immediate expropriation of property, socialization, and the communal feeding of all. Further, the erection of cities of light and gardens which will belong to society as a whole and prepare man for a state of freedom. The Dadaist Revolutionary Central Council, German Group, Hausmann, Hülsenbeck.
In Cologne, there was Max Ernst and Johannes Bargeld, the son of a banker, a very good name for a banker. And the father, Bargeld, was very happy that the son got embarked upon the Dada movement because he has been a politician, a communist before, and the father, as a banker, didn't like it.
Financed by Bargeld's father and edited by Max Ernst in February 1920 appears Die Schamade, Dilettantia Rise, with drawings, woodcuts and reproductions by Ernst Arp Bargeld. Bargeld, anthropophile, anthropophile? Stop a minute, please. Anthropophile tapeworm, assemblage. Bargeld, drawing. 1920, exhibition Dada Vorfrühling with the collaboration of Arp, Bargeld, Max Ernst. Paintings, sculptures, drawings, fluido-skeptic, vulgar dilettantism. Entrance through a public urinal.
A typewritten collage by Max Ernst and Bargeld is read out as a resolution. Report of the Extraordinary Conference, Dada, Central Office, We5. Amendment to Amendment, EEE-AAAA-E. In order to render Dada intercourse, bread coupons are to be introduced in all countries. Signed, Bargeld, certified to be true, Max Ernst.
The exhibition was closed on account of pornographic tendencies, but it reopened in May, when it turned out that the only picture to which exception had been taken was a Dürer. Dada is victorious. Janko Marcel. Architect. Published many of his woodcuts and reliefs in Dada magazines. Lives in Ein Hod, Israel. Plaster Relief, 1917. Fleur Géométrique, 1917.
Among us were neither blasé people nor cynics, actors nor anarchists who took the Dada scandal seriously. Marcel Janko, 1957.
Aims only at art because no man can serve two masters.
Berlin Dada developed more politically. George Gross, Hartfield, Herzfelde, Jung. They were political fighters. As a matter of fact, they called themselves Bolsheviks, and they probably were. They worked hand in hand with Mehring, with Hausmann, with Hülsenbeck. But,
wir waren keine Ideologen in dem Sinne, dass wir eine prägnante Idee hatten.
We were not ideologists in the sense of having a specific idea, though we were revolutionaries, and revolutionaries, moreover, that stood very far to the left. We wanted to change the world, but without any particular idea.
Hausmann Roll. Dada South, co-founder of Berlin Dada, together with Hülsenbeck. introduced the letterist sound poem, discovered photomontage at the same time as Hartfield, published the review Der Dada 1919-20, hid from the Nazis in France. Tête mécanique, assemblage 1919. The Art Critic 1919.
We called this technique photomontage as it demonstrated our aversion to pretending to be artists. We regarded ourselves as engineers. We pretended to construct, to assemble our work in the style of a mechanic.
Head, photocollage 1923, with a photograph of himself. Hartfield John. Monteur Dada, brother of Wieland Herzfelder, the director of the Malik Verlag, turned photocollage into a political weapon. Died in Berlin, 1968. Collage by John Hartfield from the underground newspaper Neue Jugend, New Youth, of June 1917. John Hartfield teaches the intellectual Dada. Title page of Dada number 3, Berlin 1920, with a montage by John Hartfield.
Höchst, Anna. Participated in Berlin Dada as Hausmann's friend. Schwitters stuck on the last H in her name. Very successful in the field of photocollage. Lives in Berlin. My home sayings. Dada is the police's police. Dangerous is only an undecided mixture.
My home sayings, photocollage 1922. From the fall of 1922 until the spring of 1923, Schwitters, together with Nelly and Theo van Doesburg, went on a Dada tour of Holland that was to become famous. Our appearance in Holland was like a magnificent triumphal march. Our audiences feel that they are Dada, and that they must screech Dada, shout Dada, lisp Dada, sing Dada, howl Dada, swear Dada. Schwitters, 1922. Hulsenbeck, Richard. Came in 1916 from Berlin to Zurich, where he became a co-founder of Dada, studied medicine there, returned to Berlin in January 1917, where he and Haussmann founded the Berlin Dada, emigrated to the USA.
The parson's doing up his fly rataplan, his fly and his hair sticking out his ears. Chupuravanta buru, pupaganda buru. Ishari Munga Buru, his fly, Kampampa Kamo, his fly, Katapena Kamo, Katapena Kara, Chupuravanta da umba dao, da umba hi.
Gross, George. Dada Marshall published in Berlin's Dada magazines his anti-bourgeois and anti-clerical drawings. Breaks with the Dadaists, 1922, moves to New York, 1933, died in Berlin, 1959. If, then, one calls my work art, depends on whether one believes that the future belongs to the working class. George Gross, 1924. Though the Dadaists, especially the Berlin group, were declared enemies of the ideology of Italian futurism, they nevertheless took over some of its forms of expression, like Brutism as anti-music, the simultaneous poem, and typo-collage. Egerling Viking. Friendship with the Dadaists in Zurich, had, however, his own concept of painting, counterpoint of painting. Died in Ascona, 1925. Ernst Max. Co-founded with Bargeld and Arp the Cologne Dada, Dada Max, editor of Die Chamada, cooperation with Arp and Bargeld on the so-called Fatagagas, anticipated surrealism in his collage and paintings already since 1921.
C'est le chapeau qui fait l'homme, collage 1920.
Angiosperm, Staplemen gymnospermal water formats.
Just out, Fiat Modes, 8 signed lithographs by Max Ernst. 1, 2, 3. Eight.
I declare that Tristan Tzara found the word Dada on February the 8th, 1916 at 6 p.m. I myself, as well as my 12 children, were present when Tzara first uttered this word, which generated justifiable enthusiasm in us. This took place in the Café de la Terrasse in Zurich, and I had a crumb in my left nostril. I am convinced that this word has no meaning whatsoever, and that only fools and Spanish professors can take an interest in dates. What interested us was the spirit of Dada, and we were all Dada before there was any Dada. The morality of fools and their belief in genius makes me want to.
Scheißen.
Tarence, August the 6th, 1921, Arp.
What is Dada? An art form, a philosophy, a policy, a fire insurance, or a state religion? Is Dada really energy, or is it nothing, that is, everything?
Dada Code, Dadaist Pocket Atlas will appear in January 1920. World's greatest standard edition. Central Bureau of the Dadaist movement in Germany. Hulsenbeck, Hausmann, Bader, Mehring, Ross, Hartfield. The atlas was never published, despite much preparatory work. The Dadaists involved could reach no agreement. The texts used have in part been published in Berlin Dada magazines, also many of the pictures.
Hey young fella, Dada is not an art movement. Hey young fella, Dada is not an art movement. Hey young fella, Dada is not an art movement. Hey young fella, Dada is not an art movement. Hey young fella, Dada is not an art movement. Death is very much a Dadaist affair. Hulsenbeck.
Johannes. Swabian pietist who converted to Dadaism in Berlin, where, as the high priest of Dada, he organized political happenings. A friend of Haussmann died in a German old folks' home.
This is the apparition of the supreme Dada in the clouds of the sky. Illustration from the Dada Co. with kind permission of the Kotwolf Verlag, Munich.
In Berlin Cathedral, Baader, speaking from the organ loft, interrupted the sermon with the words, "What is Christ to the common man? He doesn't give a damn."
Ball, Hugo. Berlin, 1915, literary activity with Hilsenbeck. Pacifist, co-founder of Zurich Dada, which he left in 1917. Political activity in Switzerland. Converted to Catholicism. Main works, Flight from Time. Fenderender, der Fantast, Verlag, Arche.
Berlin, November 1980.
Published by the Berlin Dadaists, there appears The Free Road Against Property. The articles by Baader, Haussmann, Jung are signed with false names.
Hunger, work, bloated guts.
If someone's starving, he shows little trust in the government. He proves a burden to the new organization.
If someone's working, he has other thoughts instead of hunger. Above all, he can sleep better.
If someone's belly is full, he's not hungry. He has no need to work.
This is Bloody Serious, Satirical Weekly, 1919, illustrations by Gross.
Against exploiters, blows that cut through the thickest skin. Deadly effect.
Everyone his own football, Malik Verlag.
The Bankrupt, 1920. Drawings by George Gross.
Most of the magazines are forbidden after a few numbers.
Fit for active service.
In 1919-1920, under the direction of Raoul Haussmann, there appear 3 numbers of the magazine Der Dada. Collages by Hartfield, Haussmann, Gross, manifestos, texts by Haussmann, Baader, Sarah, Hilsenbeck, Herzfelder, etc. On a collage by Hartfield was printed the program of the Great Berlin Dada Fair of 1920. It was to be the climax of Berlin Dada. First International Dada Fair, organized by Gross, Haussmann, Hartfield. Exhibition and sale of Dadaist products. The Dada movement leads to the abolition of the art trade. The photocollage and assemblage caused a storm of indignation.
Art is dead. Long live Tatlin's new machine art.
I can do without food and drink, but not without Dada, Dada Marshal George Gross.
Nor me, John Hartfield.
Neither can I, Raoul Haussmann.
Jean Hans. Founded Dada in Zurich together with Hugo Ball, Richard Hilsenbeck, Marcel Janko and Tristan Tzara, 1916. Equally important as a painter, poet and sculptor.
Leben ist für den Dadaisten der Sinn der Kunst.
Dada is the only savings bank that pays perpetual interest. Dada doubles your income.
Ladies and gentlemen, I welcome you all heartily to the auction of Tristan Tzara's library.
Dada protects you from devaluation and malnutrition. Dada Co. 1920.
Nummer 25 auch mit der Schätzung begonnen. 150 Franken, 160, 70, 80, 90. Setzer. Wieso? Dada siegt. Ranking 720. So. Hurra, hurra, hurra. Die große Pleite. Gegengewicht 500. So. Oberdada. Schwarz 900. Schwarz 1900. 3000. 12.000.